Hi, this is János, it's Real Audio, and I haven't been making videos for the past 2 weeks or so, and the reason for that is this is going to be a really important video, and this is going to be something that you do not hear from the DIY community or audiophile community at all. So this advice that's going to come is going to be contrary to a lot of advice that you are hearing, and yeah, so anyway, here it comes. So basically in my amp before I had let me lift I had these monstrous huge add core output transformers. These are single-ended transformers, and I changed them to those double C core permalloy output transformers that I got using the Buy Me a Coffee donation. So it was thanks to you, thanks to your contribution that I could purchase those. And don't worry guys, these I did not pay like thousands of dollars for them. They are not from really famous companies where you would spend that much money on such iron, but these came from Aliexpress from China, and actually I got the source and the tip for these transformers from Edward Brockman. He also has a YouTube channel, and he was the one who discovered these these transformers there, and then he had a good experience with them, so I gave them a shot as well, and indeed they delivered what was expected of them. However, here comes the plus and minus side of the story, and what I'm going to say is that changing the regular EI core, so this iron that has the regular EI laminate core, and that is unable to have that low level detail transmission as these new iron, which were actually made in China, but they used British cores. So they used British output transformers, and they took them apart and they wound new windings, and they reassembled them, and they sell them for so cheap that it just breaks every economic model. And probably if I and you support these companies, you will get all of those British and Japanese companies who originally put in tremendous money to develop these transformers just to go bankrupt, because we are not supporting them anymore, just a company who lives on the carcass of the burnt transformers that they made. So anyway, that's not something very cheerful, but on a positive note, for many of us who cannot afford those expensive transformers, this is an option. But this video is really about, do you want to take this option? Is this really your choice? And this is not my first exposure to such iron, and this is why this is such a hard video, because to get a stereo system that plays music the way you want to play, the recipe for that is not just mindlessly buying the most esoteric parts and putting them together. So if you put all the most esoteric things together, you have the best sound, and no, that's probably the safest way to, or the surest way to really get something that when you turn it on, it will be wow, amazing sound, and then a month later you notice that you haven't turned it on for a week, and then half a year later you notice that it's been 5 months since you turn it on, and then a year later you notice that you are into golf or something else and haven't listened to music at all. So yeah, so I think this is something that all of us needs to keep in mind. And of course, for me, I have developed my system very carefully for decades, many decades. It took how to build it, and I could get by with a simpler output transformer, just a regular EI laminate core, because the rest of the system was really on point. So if you have the opportunity to have really exceptional speakers, like for example those big ones there with the Altec drivers, then the laminate EI laminate core transformer will be probably a much safer, much more likely way for you to put together a system that is musical. And under musical, I'm not meaning distorting or all that BS that those people say who don't like tubes. Under musical, I mean a system where when you play music on it, sounds like music, and you get from your system what you get when you listen to live music. So basically, in my interpretation, it has the ability to relay music the way to you, that in the same way that musicians relay it to you. And I mean musicians, unamplified musicians, because when there's an amplification for music that you listen to, I think that's a bodged up reference for audio quality, because then it's the amplification you are hearing, and it's not it doesn't have any fidelity whatsoever to the event. It just has fidelity to whatever PA system they used. And sadly, if we calibrate our musical experience to PA systems, then we are kind of doomed to fail in an attempt to have a wide range of music absorption. We are really set on a very narrow path, and basically you'll be happy if you have the same PA system at home as the guys who used it at the concert. So what am I saying now? So basically what happened when I changed the output transformers, two things changed, and both of them are big change. One of them, actually three things. The biggest change was that the ad cores that I had were not the correct impedance match to the speakers. They matched another pair of speakers that I had, and they only have one output tap. And there was a major impedance mismatch to the voice over unstereoed speakers, and of course also to these little guys, because these are also 16 ohm drivers. So these guys and those guys, but actually the 515 Altex, they say 16 ohm, but actually they are 18 ohm, nominal 18 ohm, and this is nominal 16 ohm. So that's another thing, that when people say, oh, I got 16 ohm speakers, sometimes it's a little less, sometimes it's a little more, and these Altec babies are actually 18 ohms, so they are not just 16 but a little bit higher than that. And the ad cores, they were actually matching 6 ohms, so you can see like a 3 times impedance mismatch, which means roughly like 9 times less power delivery into the speakers than the amp would be capable normally. And of course a major drop in the bass output, control over the bass. And yes, I knew this fully well, that the bass was really mismatched between the amplifier and the loudspeaker. But nevertheless, I think that massive over obsession with extremely tight bass is, I think it's something that's absurd. And what I noticed is that there are some music which sounds better when you don't have such tight bass delivery, and there's other music that sounds really good when you have tight bass control. So for example, I have here the Ampexes. These are push-pull 807 amplifiers with these vintage Peerless output transformers, and they have really tight bass, like a modern solid-state amplifier. And some music sounds more natural on this in the bass department, and actually other material sounded better on this for the bass. So it's not like there's just one amplifier that can do everything and it will be better, like it has the best bass or something. No, it depends what you are playing, and some equipment will match certain music better than others, and that's why my advice for all of you who are more experienced audiophiles, and probably as such you already have multiple pairs of amplifiers and speakers, is that keep them. Don't just trade up or trade whatever direction. Maybe you think you are trading up, but later on you found you traded down. So like if you have a favorite amplifier, then don't get rid of it and change it for something you never heard or you don't know, that you have not experienced in your home, in your system. But keep both of them, and then you will be able to swap between them, and that's the good idea when you build your gear, because then you can modify them. So like living with your next amp, and then okay, now I know what I can modify, what I can change, and that's something much more healthy than just keeping on a one-way track and having no options. So coming back to these output transformers in there, which are like right there and right there, those big boys are the output transformers. And what I noticed is, of course, they needed like a full day just to minimally break in. And during that first day, there was absolutely no bass whatsoever coming out of them. But the amount of high energy was absolutely quite a lot. And my recommendation when you are breaking in new output transformers is to keep the volume down. Do not max it out. Just soft. Play it soft. And then play all kinds of music on it that you like, that you want to listen to, and as the transformers warm in, break in, burn in, slowly, like a tick by tick. So like one step on your volume attenuator, just go up step by step. And maybe like spend like half an hour at each step, or even longer. And when you hear that it plays with ease, then you go one step louder. And it was for me after about 3 days. And I was actually watching a Netflix movie, a Netflix film, and when I was watching that, that's when the bass burned in and broke in, and it was just like a landslide. So this is not something like I know there's some people who are like who cannot conceive of that there's something like break in or burn in, and they say, oh, this, you are just fooling yourself, this is hallucination. Now and I think even if someone is a semi-deaf, it's very easy to hear the difference between I'm not hearing any bass at all versus you are getting PTSD from the amount of bass. Now the difference was that much, and we were watching it with the cats, and even the cats looked at me like, what the fudge is happening? It was just insane. So so the dynamics and the depth of the bass, like how, and I mean not just the depth, because the ampexes go like super duper deep, like really deep, and play easily into the subsonic region, but so these ampexes, which are the push-pull. So this is a push-pull clean 20 watt per channel. And I mean clean 20, that when I measure it, I watch it on the scope and I look at the square waves. At 20 watt output, it has clear square waves without any overshoot, without any ringing, and the square wave like shooting up really fast, and it looks like a perfect square at 1 kilohertz at 20 watt. So, and these guys, so now I have not done any observation with the oscilloscope, just based on the numbers. So when with the EdCore, what it matched, it was I measured 1.25 watts per channel output when I had clear square waves. So it's kind of like 16-17 times less power than the push-pull amplifier. And now with these transformers, now I have like not just 9 times more power, because it's the secondary is matching 16 ohms instead of 6 ohms, which is a little less than 9, but the primary is 8 kilo ohm instead of 10 kilo ohm. And the reason for that is that they didn't have any 10 kilo ohms iron. And this was the only one that was that had 16 ohm taps, and it's closer to the closest to 10K, so 8K. And talking to Edward, he also noticed that going to these double C core permalloys, if he dropped the primary impedance, that was similar to like a little higher primary impedance with an EI core, and so they were. It's a better match for the same tube, and that I can confirm his experience that yes, these tubes, which are the KT6060s, run in triode mode, they absolutely love that 8K primary load. So with the 8K load and 16 ohm output, I should be getting 11 watts per channel, single-ended, in triode mode. I think this is kind of like the dream of everyone who is building triode amplifiers for yourself, is that that's kind of the Goldilocks zone where you have a lot of power, lot of triode power, because if you think about solid state amps, that's not even any consideration. But I can tell you that like a 10 watt triode power, the quality of it, if it's a properly built amp, is equivalent to about 1,000 watt of solid state power. And I'm not saying that it will play as loud as 1,000 watt, no, not at all, but within the capabilities of the 10 watt amplifier, if you are not pushing it for volume, and I'm certainly not pushing it because my speakers are significant, higher than 100 dB per watt, so I don't need to push them. And if I wanted the same presentation from a solid state amplifier that can handle dynamics, that can handle the highs without falling apart. And I mean falling apart, I'm really picky about the falling apart aspect. What I noticed is that solid state amplifiers break up into just really massive animalistic levels of high frequency distortion, and under high frequency I mean the 17 kilohertz plus region. And most male audiophiles are totally deaf to that region, and that's why there is a huge success for solid state amplifiers. However, if you have hearing that's intact above that, sadly I can hear clear even at 20 kilohertz. For me, listening to solid state audiophile amplifiers, I cannot stand the lot of them for longer than 5 minutes, because it's just like my head is exploding, because the high frequencies are just unbearable. I can tell you guys, like I count on my fingers how many solid state amps I heard that let me listen to music. Two. One is Michael Yee's amplifiers, solid state amps, and the other is the big Conrad Johnson, the SA350. So these two are basically the only solid states that can produce high frequencies that don't go berserk on the ears of someone who has an intact hearing in the high frequencies. So anyway, I think that was kind of wandering around in the wilderness. Coming back to these output transformers in here, I experienced there that these guys in a single-ended amplifier, it just absolutely blew the push-pull 20-watt amplifier out of the park. Like the explosive dynamics, the energy in the bass, in the really deep bass, like the 20 hertz and under and over, is just absolutely animalistic. It's just out of this freaking universe. And I would say it's even too much. It's just too much. And that's why this is what I'm saying, that I alluded to at the beginning of the video, that you might come to a combination which is just too much. And yeah, it's just absolutely like jaw-dropping, and it's like I never heard dynamics like this, I never heard bass control like this, and the ability to just energize the room to do big things, but it's just too much. And I noticed that during the 3 weeks, now it's been 3 weeks that I have the new transformers, I'm listening to it much less than I did with the ad cores. And I'm really considering that I'm putting back the ad cores instead of this iron. And my so what is the verdict about that? Well, I haven't said everything about it, but it's already 24 minutes. So what I'm saying is not that for you. What is my advice for you? Do you want to play around with permalloy cores? And my answer is that if you do not have 100 dB plus efficient speakers, then my answer is yes. Because if you have something like in the 90s, 90 something dB, then yes, these output transformers will kick that speaker into that level where you would expect 100 dB plus speakers playing. So then yes, I would say that you could make it work, but if your speakers are already like 100 dB plus efficient, then it can be just too much. Yes, so that's my answer. That's my things. I'm going to share more videos, additional observations, what you can expect when you do such a change. And of course, one thing that you can expect is that the weak links, weak elements inside your system will be more prominent, and your future is that you have to take care of that. And in my case, I see and I know and I expected what those will be, and I'm not really looking forward to just going into massive modifications into my system. Kind of like really, it's a major time commitment, and of course it's time that's taken away from music listening, and now that I find it just too much. So what I mean under too much, that it does not let me connect to the music. It is so the aspect is too much on the sound and how it sounds. And I have to say that the highs and the bass are just so freaking more impressive than it was, but the tonality and the mid-range of the Ed core blast the permalloys to smithereens. So if you are looking for mid-range and tone, these are not even on the playing field, and that's also a really big turn off for me. That's why I'm not listening to it that much, is that the mid-range is lacking, the tonality is lacking very big time. So there you go. And that's also a good news for everyone, because the Ed cores are really cheap output transformers, and as you saw, it's really heavy. It's a monster. I think it's a 25 or 30 watt single-ended core. So if this was a push-pull iron, it would be like 200 watt or something like that, based on the size and the iron in it. And or maybe not 200, depending on what, if the amplifier is, from a Chinese clone, yeah, 200 watt. If it's a Conrad Johnson, maybe 120 watt. So that's it for now. Thank you guys for tuning in, and that's it for today. Thank you for joining. Bye bye.